welcome everybody to the Digital Technology in the Commercial Space event. We are one away from our closing ceremony with Steve Grimfield, and he's going to be talking about how to win by adapting. And in our panel here today, hopefully we'll adapt a little bit and talk about some digital technologies. So to start us off, I want to introduce everybody. I'll start with myself. My name is Kevin Kinell. I work at Work Truck Solutions. I've been in startup and technology space for my whole career. I'm probably the newbie on the auto side of things, only being at Work Truck Solutions 9 years. I've been here to help us build out our software, hire out our engineering team, and advance our product over the years. So I will now pass it on to Greg.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Ross. I am with a company called Motormindz, which is a collection of 30-ish year veterans, and about 100 of us worldwide. We guide companies to as they work to enter the auto business based on our background and experience. We represent most of the OEMs, a lot of the tier ones, a lot of dealer groups, fleets, et cetera. So very knowledgeable group of people and with a lot of experience in the car business. My personal role is I'm responsible for the connected car practice, and that's built on my experience with General Motors OnStar as a part of the leadership team there, and opened up connections for the OnStar device to third parties like fleets and rental companies and insurance companies and so forth. And then I've continued to do that since retiring from General Motors, working with other manufacturers and with startups and others all around that connection and data in and out of vehicles.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Sarah, I'll pass it to you.
Sarah Shoemaker with Morgan Olson. We build walk-in van step bodies, so the big brown trucks delivering to homes and businesses is a large customer of ours. And my role is Director of Product and EV Strategy. So from a digital perspective, I'm looking at different ways that we can bring technology into our vehicles. And in our space, it's predominantly safety and efficiency that we're leveraging those technologies for.
All right, thanks. And Ryan.
Yeah, my name's Ryan Dye. I work with FlexFleet Rental. We're based out of Salt Lake City. We are a nationally based fleet rental company that specializes in medium and light duty trucks. We are in all 50 states, and we're fast approaching 5,000 vehicles in our fleet. It's going to be a pretty good day when we hit that number. My direct role is the national remarketing operations manager. So I handle all the dispositions of the assets that come back into our environment when the customers are done with them.
All right, thanks. And everybody, you can see that we've got a diverse set of backgrounds here for our tech panel. Everything from the manufacturing side to the connected car side, and to somebody who's got fleets across the entire nation, and they're trying to manage and get eyeballs on those vehicles. So we'll be able to cover a few topics here. And before we dive in a little bit further, please do jump into chat and ask us questions or comment on our topics that we're talking about here today. Would love to have anybody in the audience involved in getting in front of this group that you see here today. All right, so what we as a panel have been talking a little bit with each other, and one of the things that we were talking about is getting data to and from vehicles. And Greg, you had told me that you're seeing that as something that every single company is trying to solve right now. And so let's just kick it off with what do you mean by that? Like when you say everybody, and is it, the body manufacturers, the chassis manufacturers, the fleet management companies that, can you explain a little bit about what you mean
Sure.
by everybody getting data out of vehicles?
Who's everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So first of all, the auto manufacturers and both car and truck manufacturers, virtually all new vehicles being built today come equipped with a modem, with a wireless connection in the car that allows data to be transmitted back to the manufacturer, and a lot of times commands to be issued down to the vehicle, and new software to be delivered to the vehicle. So that's a trend that pretty much is universal with all new vehicles being built today. And there's a lot of interesting uses being put to that. The fleet and commercial industry has really led the way with that, traditionally using aftermarket devices to do things like fleet management, driver coaching, asset management, that sort of thing. But increasingly, those sort of services are being done through the OEM devices. And you as a fleet owner have access to a lot of those services right through built-in devices, and that creates some new possibilities. Really, the OEMs have the potential to get to just about any module on the vehicle, so they can get at a whole lot more data than what an aftermarket device can do. And they have an ability to drop new software into the vehicle. And so I would encourage fleets to get to know more about what those capabilities are. And there's a growing list of companies that will enable you to connect to those OEMs and that data stream directly.
Yeah, Ryan, have you guys, as a somebody that's more on the fleet side of things, seen some of that, or are you guys looking at how you can interface with that?
Yeah, so the major partners that we've used are Verizon, Telogis, and AT&T Fleet Complete. Right now, we currently utilize Fleet Complete. And each individual company has its own niches, what you can do with the vehicles that are kind of under your guise. And one of the things that we've started to do as a company in general is we've started to give more tools to the fleet managers that are renting from us. So we're kind of faux fleet managers for the company fleet managers that are taking part in our programs. What that's allowing them to do is it's allowing them to understand their drivers and help them utilize and manage the assets that they have. So it obviously helps us take time away from their day and make it easier for them to track inventory. But yeah, Kevin, to answer your question, we've utilized a lot of different software over the years, and obviously the software and the programs we've used have changed based on the size fleet we have. Some have not been able to accommodate for the fleet size that we have or will have, and others don't have features that are favorable to customers. So it's a very interesting world right now, just because the dynamic of fleet software is very vast, and it's opening the doors for a lot of new companies to enter the sphere and fill in the gaps of things that companies may need.
Sarah, Work Truck Solutions, a lot of what our initial problem that we were trying to solve is what is on the back of a vehicle. And so I was just curious if that is something that you guys are thinking about tying into this same data that Greg and Ryan are talking about. How important is that to this vehicle data we're talking about is what's on the back? How big is that box truck you've got on the back of your chassis?
Yeah, and for us with Morgan Olson, we bring in strip chassis. So we build the entire body, the cab and the box. So as we're looking at integrating new technologies and connected vehicles, we're currently working with aftermarket providers, and we have some customers that are very forward thinking. They want to know what's going on with our vehicles. And we're sending data as simple as, has the driver actually put their seatbelt on? How long has the bulkhead pass-through door been open? Did they close it when they went and did their delivery? So all aspects of that vehicle are being tracked depending on the customer. And we're working with various aftermarkets. And then depending on the vehicles, we do build on a varying size and lengths of chassis, different widths and heights. There's some information that's going back as well to help them know the size of the vehicle, how much cargo can that vehicle hold, that type of data as well.
Yeah, and some of this that comes to my mind is just like how do companies keep a standard across all of this? And when you're working off of a strip chassis, and Greg, maybe you have more insights here, is that changing what like the OEM can still read off of? When they think about being able to send updates and things like that you mentioned, does that still apply when it's being modified in the way Sarah's talking about?
Well, we're in the middle of some transition going on right now. I think a lot of people have seen some exciting things from companies like Tesla that's made a real business out of delivering new software updates and so forth. As a Tesla owner, you get updates every week pretty much with new updates and changes and fixes and things like that. Most of the other OEMs are working to build a data architecture to allow that to happen to all the modules on the vehicle, like what Tesla's doing. But most of them are in the middle of doing that. And I wish I could say there's an easy standard that's all ready to go right now, but that doesn't exist yet. What does exist is there's some companies that have stepped in to act as an exchange and a translator. I work with one company called Motormindz I think they're connected to 10 different OEMs, and they take the data from the OEMs and then normalize it and standardize it so that fleets can consume it. So it doesn't matter whether you're looking at a Toyota or a Ford or a Chevrolet, the same signal, you get the signal that's all equivalent that tells you where the vehicle is, and you can put that into your fleet management application. So there's companies that are emerging to solve those kinds of problems, that while the OEMs get their acts together and get to some standardization, that'll make all this a lot easier.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just, the one question I have, Greg, and I was going to ask this last time we spoke. One of the things that I've heard grumblings about is the pay to play aspect of vehicle updates.
Yeah.
Now, do you envision that that's going to really start causing a ripple effect in the automotive industry of features that are being taken away from, cars that come equipped with them on a standard basis?
Yeah, it's a controversial thing, and I mean, I know about that going all the way back to my days with OnStar when we charged a subscription for that, and then some people always felt that it should have been part of the price of the vehicle. So there's a little bit of strategic discussion there to go on, but I can tell you that a lot of the largest OEMs are on record saying that they plan to make a lot of money from subscription services. I think Stellantis came out with a target of $10 billion a year or something like that. Volkswagen had a similar target. General Motors had a target like that. So they're envisioning getting into the business of selling subscription-based software services to customers. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy to do, and they will definitely have to consider what the customer is willing to do and what they're willing to pay for to get into that. But they are all building with an eye towards enabling that kind of ecosystem. Whether it's the right idea or not, we'll see. But
Right, that will tell. Absolutely.
Right.
Ryan, kind of similar to the question I was talking to Greg about, just what's on the back half of the vehicle, thinking about the commercial side of things. Does that play into your vehicles, or is it more about the safety features and the driver side of things, or are you tying anything in about the back half of the vehicle?
There's it's more so about the safety of the driver and the amount of use that the vehicle is getting. But that isn't to say that we're not tracking what's on the back of the vehicle. Typically, we'll do upfitting for our F350 and 450 chassis. Much like Sarah's company, will get them as a stripped chassis and upfit them as we see fit, or per a customer's request if they have a large order of service body vehicles that they need. But standard, we'll do a flatbed body, and we will track that internally with our system because we have an upfitter that we send these vehicles to that will do the work for us. So the VIN is tied specifically to the type of body. So we're not necessarily ingesting it based off a data flow. We're simply ingesting it based off the model that we're upfitting. But going back to the previous question, going forward, that will change, because obviously as our fleet grows, we're going to have more aspects of tracking and overall just a better view of the vehicle as it sits. And that's going to be exceedingly difficult as we eventually approach, a 20,000 unit fleet.
Just to add to that too, I think another dynamic that's going on here is, as the OEMs have learned more about the power of these connections, it's allowed them to experiment with some new business models. So both Ford and GM have started to do things like insurance services, dealer lot services, fleet management services, and GM's always has gone so far as to launch a new business unit called BrightDrop, which has, the vehicle and the delivery van on the back, and they're doing upfitting and so forth. I would assume, I don't know because I'm not there anymore, but I would assume that part of what they're going to try to do is get better data than others have about how those vehicles are being used, and try to use that to customize their vehicles and penetrate deeper. So it's a new competitive dynamic that this data capability is creating that I think will be, or is intended to be, disruptive, and we'll see whether it's successful or not, to the earlier comment, but it's clearly a challenge to the traditional way of doing things.
Speaking of adapting and disrupting, the EV side of things is changing pretty rapidly here as well. And so Sarah, I'll tell you, kind of pivot the subject into talking a little bit about EV and the impact that's having, how does Morgan look at that as as OEMs are changing, whether it's this technology side and the data that's coming off the chassis to the completely overhauling that to become an EV vehicle and the weight of batteries and things like that. How does that impact you guys at Morgan?
So yeah, at Morgan Olson, we're looking at EVs. Our core customer, majority of our customers are doing last mile multi-stop deliveries. The vehicles aren't driving very far, so EVs are a great fit because you don't need the long range. They also are carrying a lot of cargo, and you want to be able to fit as much as you can in the vehicle in order to maximize that tool. So we are currently, with our sister business unit EAVX, developing a new body that is going to incorporate new technologies, but also lightweighting and other elements to improve the efficiency and be able to truly maximize some of the packaging advantages you get with an EV vehicle.
Is this a you heard it here first thing? Should our dealers listening, should they be calling you up about this new body?
We just started doing some new press releases on it, and we'll be sharing it with customers later in the summer. So it is a very exciting new product for us over at Morgan Olson in partnership with EAVX.
Well,
feel free to reach out to me if you want to learn more about it.
All right. And again, back to our audience, feel free if you want to elaborate or you get Sarah to elaborate on that. Ryan, do you have any EVs in the fleet right now?
We are very close to acquiring some EVs through Ford. We've realized, much like, and we discussed this prior, but it was, like the internet boom, where there was a vast majority of people that did not think the internet was going to stick. I will be honest, being 25 years old, kind of early on in the industry, I was pretty convinced that the EV scene wasn't going to last, but the infrastructure and the investments that have been done inside the industry have been monumental. So we have started looking at the future of FlexFleet, and that future does entail electric vehicles. Now, the thing that's going to be difficult with that is, and this could be said for other fleet companies as well, but for us predominantly, when we look at the infrastructures that we operate with, we know that oil field workers and those individuals that are out predominantly in the middle of nowhere will not have a charging station, right? So if they have a 3/4 ton vehicle that has been loaded down with welding equipment and all sorts of other things, and they are very near the end of their battery life, we have to figure out a fix for that, because obviously as a fleet rental company, we need to provide the utmost service to our customer, and that does entail charging stations and thinking about how we can service them. So one of the things that we have really thought more about is gauging the interest of what our customers will really think. In Sarah's scope, it'd be easier, right? Because as a fleet company, especially with using box trucks and delivery vehicles in short distances, that can be a massive win. Whereas a lot of our customers are driving hundreds of miles, and we need to think about what it would cost us as a company, what it would do to the infrastructure, and how much money we're comfortable investing into the EV sector. So gauging interest is one of our main topics of interest right now.
Yeah. Greg, anything you want to add on this topic? Or?
Well, I'm not the EV guy, but I can tell you I worked on EV1 back in 1990 and 91. And the technology is dramatically improved from where we were with lead acid batteries and the capabilities. And as Ryan mentioned, I think the investment is hard to deny. There's an awful lot of new product development going into electrical platforms and powertrains and capabilities. So I wouldn't bet against it at this point. I think it's very likely to be a significant part of the commercial business. And as Sarah mentioned, there's an awful lot of fleets for whom electric makes perfect sense because their duty cycles are fairly limited and fairly predictable. And so if you know that all the vehicles are coming and going from a given central point, that's a perfect application for electrification. And there's a lot of other upsides to it as well, particularly the maintenance and repair side, I think, is what a lot of people are very excited about from a total cost of ownership perspective.
Yeah, speaking of...
Yeah, in addition to that,
go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to add to that too, on the total cost of ownership. One thing that's very important for our customers is the driver efficiency, the multiple in and out of the vehicles, and the electric vehicles also offer a much lower chassis overall. So that lower step in height provides better efficiencies, makes it less wear on the driver's body. So the more you look at EV, there's multiple benefits to our customers that, to Greg and Ryan's point, it makes us a very good target for EV, and we recognize that in our space.
And to put my connected hat back on again, EVs are even better for connected because they're also physically connected at least once a day when they charge. So there's an awful lot of opportunity for high bandwidth exchange of data, and that's part of why Tesla has been able to build such a powerful capability. Is they're connected all the time and they have an ability to exchange an awful lot of data very efficiently. So that'll be a big part of electric vehicle ownership and management as well.
Well, all of you touched a little bit on the customer in this conversation about Ryan wanting to understand the needs of your customers. And so just shifting a little bit, like, and it could come back to EV or the telematics and data side of things, but what are any of you hearing from customers when you think about digital technology and technology changing? Are you hearing things from your customers about like requests or like what they would want to see happening or ideas that they're generating, whether you're able to solve those or not? Like what are you guys hearing from customers right now on requests, or what more could we do on the technology side of things?
Well, I mean, to begin in that question, speaking from a fleet standpoint alone, the main question that we get is how can we have more succinct data on our drivers, right? How can we understand what our drivers are doing? And this isn't for every customer. This is for a select few that request it, but it's understanding data, understanding how the truck was treated, because obviously when, much like any rental company, when a vehicle comes back, if there's damage that the vehicle came back with that it did not leave with, they will receive a bill for damage. One of the things that we strive to do is really help our customers understand the damage better, because it's very easy for a body shop to write up an estimate on a truck that's not as damaged or more damaged than the rider. It's very subjective, to put it bluntly. And so one of the things that we've really strived to do, and this is going back into your initial question of what are customers asking, all of our customers that are renting high volumes are asking, we just want to understand how our trucks are being treated and why the damage bills are the way they are. And so what we've done is we've initiated software and tracking that allows the fleet managers and the owners of these companies to really understand, okay, this truck was idling for 4 hours straight. That's why the diesel, particulate filter was gummed up, or instances like that. So it allows us to really paint a better picture for our customers to say, to keep us honest as well as the customer, right? Because transparency is very key in our field. And we have really started to listen to more and more of what they're saying. And a lot of that's coming into technology. So it's finding ways and finding avenues to report on these damages better, to help educate our customers, to help them understand, because they're simply they're using our vehicle as a tool to get a job done. And obviously a tool can get damaged or lost or stolen or, whatever it is. And so we are just actively striving to paint a picture for them to understand the scope of how the vehicle is throughout the life cycle of it.
So our customers are constantly looking at safety of both the driver, safety of the vehicle, and safety of the cargo. In our space, a lot of the customers, especially the fleet operators, are saying, help us protect the driver, but also help us protect the truck from the driver. If the vehicle can stop before it actually hits the obstacle, that would be great. We don't have to take it down to repair the side panel. If you can let us know that the vehicle needs maintenance in between its regular service time period, again, it would be great. It would help prevent additional charges down the road and longer downtime. So for us, it's all the safety side. In addition to that, there's also blind spot cameras, a lot of camera systems that have been going into our trucks. And on the driver side, that can be protecting them if they're entering, even if they're entering onto a sidewalk in a busy street, there could be a bicyclist or something coming down. It could give them a notification that there's an obstacle, so they should wait before they actually exit the vehicle. Just several several areas to protect both the vehicle and the driver is what our customers are asking for.
Yeah, and I think it's been covered, but a lot of it just comes down to, if you take a look at any aspect of your business, ask yourself, could I do it better or more efficiently if I had better connection to my vehicles or better data? And almost always the answer is yes. If you could know something more about how the drivers are driving, how the vehicle's being used, how it's being maintained, you can do a better job of reducing your costs and increasing your efficiency. And that's what we help a lot of people do, is just think through those opportunities and think through how they can use the technologies to make things work better.
Yeah, there's probably no end to what people can come up with and need. A lot of individual business. When I think of these types of vehicles, I think every business has like very specific needs about what works for their business. What, like Ryan, like you said, somebody's driving far distances or somebody's doing lots of stops. Sarah, and just what they're carrying on the back of that vehicle. I'm sure the use cases and the questions that come up from small businesses to like, hey, can you help me solve this, piece of what my business has, and can you create, data or an actual different custom body that meets that need? No real end there. When I think of back to that buyers and trying to find out like how do buyers like figure out all of these different things? When I'm doing research on a vehicle for my business, is that can I just put in some Google searches and start figuring out like how do I tie all this together? And Greg, I'll start with you. I don't know if you've got like, what's your suggestion? If I'm a small business trying to figure out what's possible now versus what used to be possible, where do you start?
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's never been easy buying commercial vehicles, because commercial vehicles are always more complex and have more options to choose from, always have, and even more so now with some of these services. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I'd check out what the OEMs are offering, because they're all doing some new and innovative things, but there's also some great third parties offering services. So I'm sure companies like Ryan's and Sarah's can tell you more about what the choices are, but I think you may want to lean on some parties like that have a good sense of what's current, because what I can say is there's probably a lot more choices out there than you were probably aware of, because things are coming so fast and the technology is changing so quickly. And there's also an openness to get new things. If there's a piece of data that you wish you had that isn't available on a current offering, there's probably an opportunity to get it, that somebody can help you get it. An example Ryan mentioned, getting insights about seatbelts. We originally didn't have an ability to read whether the seatbelt was being attached and send it out through the OnStar system, but we figured out how to do it because we had customers that asked us to. So there's a lot of the stuff that's redoable and rewirable through software in a way that in the past you would have had to add a part or add a new thing to the car. Now you can change a tweak, get a new piece of data, drop a new piece of code in, and suddenly get new data, new capabilities, new insights that weren't originally available. So if it's not in the brochure, or if it's not on somebody's list of things being offered, make a wish list, because it might be possible to make it happen anyway.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, right? Like, it's almost like the anything's possible kind of mentality.
It kind of is. It's all just software, which it might used to drive my IT friends crazy, but it really is. The data's there, and it's just a bit of work to go get it. And
yeah, I'm very familiar with that. Can you just add this concept
right
on software? Ryan, what about you? Are you any recommendations on a buyer trying to figure out what could work or be unique to the business?
It's a very complex question in my scope of business. To put it as simplistically as possible, one of the things that I've identified and that FlexFleet has identified over the almost 10 years of business that we've been doing is we have to start out with gauging, much like I talked about the EVs, gauging customer interest, understanding the infrastructures and the clients that we're trying to get. And with that, we've kind of built our trucks around the customer, obviously not around what we want. It's obviously what the customer wants. And if you go back and you look at our build sheets from 2017, 18, 19, 20 to even this year, they get longer and more complex. And that's not necessarily because we're ordering more. It's simply because the base models of what these vehicles are now are far more complex. They would not be considered base models. They would be considered, very high-end models 5 years ago. And the biggest thing that we preach to our customers is understanding, as long as they can understand what they need, as a service provider, we can do just about anything that they need us to do, as long as it revolves around work trucks, right? So understanding the need of the customer is beyond important at this point, because much to Greg's point, you the sky's the limit. You can add and do whatever you want. It's just understanding what the customer needs and wants. And we've found success in kind of having a baseline model that we offer, off-road packages, towing packages. What does the working man need? And, the benefit is, at the end of the day, when the individual's done, they still have a decent truck that they can drive to dinner with their family. And so understanding the catch-all from the very beginning of the inception of our company was very important. And when we started to understand that, then we started petitioning our customers. Well, what can we do to help your job? And that's tying all back into technology. Now that we have the baseline of the foundation of our business, which is trucks, now we can improve on the technology side for our customers that are using our trucks.
Yeah, that's even though we're got a few broad topics here, it all does tie back together with just what you can do with technology. And Sarah, I'm curious, like, I'm sure you've had customers that have, as a manufacturer, and you're also on the innovation and product side, like, have you had some interesting requests to you and your company?
So we've had a variety of different requests, and we consider ourselves a custom body builder, and we really want to make sure that we're getting our customers what they need and what specs they want. And so we do have some bigger customers that are very proactive on improving the efficiency of their drivers, making sure that their cargo is very secure. So we had one that came to us and said that they had completed a study that if they could make it so the bulkhead door was already open for the driver by the time they reached it, it would save them X amount of time, but it only had a very small ROI attached to it. So they didn't want a very complicated solution. They wanted something simple, easy to activate, and that their drivers could use obviously multiple times a day, up to 150, 200 times a day. And we did come up with a very robust, simple, mostly mechanical solution for that customer that also but in the process of designing that, we also tied it to their telematics. So they not only have the efficiency for the driver to be able to push a button, have the bulkhead door open as the driver's unbuckling their seatbelt and getting up and going to the cargo, they also have that data coming back to their headquarters, and they can track how long has the bulkhead been opened, has it actually been closed, is the cargo secure when the driver's not in the vehicle.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's sort of fascinating to know that your customers doing their own research studies around this and then presenting you data, right? Like, it's not just like, hey, we have a hunch that this might be better. Maybe you guys could prototype something for us and then we'll see what the results are. It's like they actually came to you with some data up front. Very cool.
Yeah, it goes both ways, but our customers are very active and often come to us with the data.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to imply you guys aren't doing the same, but yeah, it's just almost more surprising that it's coming from the customer side. All right, so we went into our time for audience questions a little bit here, and so I do want to just come back to the audience and see if anybody has any questions. And I do see that there is one already that I'll address here. And John, if I misrepresent your question here, please speak up and clarify it for me. But John's asking, what types of subscription services are envisioned for future revenue streams? What are we forecasting? And I think John's tying off of something that you said, Greg, around the services that can be built on top of telematics. And I think you mentioned some subscription services there.
Yeah.
So if you want to take that.
Yeah. And some of it is things that you've seen already, like safety and security and concierge kinds of stuff like OnStar. Some are talking about software enabled features, like the Super Cruise or the semi-automated driving features being offered as a subscription as opposed to a built-in feature. That's one that's talked about quite a lot. passing data to services that you might encounter as you're driving around. So making it easy to pay for and book parking, for example, use of tolls and toll lanes, or with every vehicle connected, there's the opportunity to create toll roads that are only there sometimes, and that you pay for because we're able to tell when the vehicle is going over a given piece of road. So there's expectations for those kinds of things, and potentially use of or privileged use of limited access lanes, things like that. There's a lot of different things that are being talked about. Some are actual vehicle features, some are features that around the vehicle's interaction with things around it, fueling, charging, and that sort of thing. And frankly, I don't know that the OEs have figured out all of what they're going to do to try to reach the revenue targets. But it begins with that connection, and it begins with the ability to put new software routines onto the vehicle, not unlike the apps on your smartphone.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sarah, Ryan, anything you want to add to that question? Or
I think it's speaking from more of the consumer side. I think it'll definitely be something to look at as a fleet company if a standardized process is introduced to the vehicle models that we purchase. One of the things that we've already done is extended, to our customers that they have access to their telematics at any point in time. So that can be a benefit for them. But I think, without too much experience, much like Greg has, it'll be very interesting to see within the next, I'd say 3 years, what's going to change in the scope of over-the-air downloads and subscription-based driving.
Right. Not all of this will be done by the OEs either. A lot of this is just creating the environment for others to innovate on. Not unlike your smartphone. Apple doesn't make all the apps that are on your phone, but they've created an environment where a lot of other people with creativity figured out how to use that connection to create new routines. So I think that's also part of what's envisioned, and that could include things like servicing and maintenance and convenience services all around the use of your vehicle, working through that connection into the vehicle.
Oh, absolutely. I think GDP will drastically change in the tech market as these new companies find the niche and find the holes that are not being filled, and it'll happen very quickly, I believe.
For sure.
That your analogy about the iPhone kind of almost reminds me of the strip chassis or the cab chassis. It's like kind of your platform, and then you build up on top of that, and a lot of people are innovating in a lot of different ways on top of that.
Right. And the more flexible and adaptable the chassis is, the more creativity you can apply. So
yeah. Both the manufacturing physical specs, as well as this ability to get data to and from anywhere on the chassis.
Right.
One of the other things I was just going to briefly touch on here is I can't help it if I don't tie things to being online, and is accurately representing like what a vehicle is online. And Ryan, I know you guys, as you resell vehicles, you want to then still try and get those vehicles back out to buyers that need that vehicle, and I'm sure used vehicles is a big topic right now, both dealers wanting them as well as businesses. So I'm just curious if you had any thoughts on how to accurately represent like these upfitted vehicles that have really unique specifications or bodies that have been put on the back, and how are you getting eyeballs and in front of buyers?
Well, Kevin, how long do you have? Because I could go on for hours about it. That's been one of the challenges, right? Is it begins at the front of our business. So talking again about the damage side of things, is we need to accurately capture everything that the life cycle of the vehicle up until it comes to my team for the disposition. And one of the things that we're able to do with that is we have an online platform that is separate from our online portal for rentals. It's strictly for sales, and it's all the assets that we have for disposition. And we built that website specifically to answer the question that you just posed, which is how do we cover the model and the features that the vehicle has. So all of the features, all of the aspects of the vehicle, we've captured inside that website. So when you log in as a dealer, you can go in and look at VIN specific models and see all of the pictures of the damage, any service that the truck has had, and just an overall VIN code that's a little bit more intricate than just going onto Google, because we do have higher tiered upfit trucks that are, like I said, more family friendly. After the job is done, you can take your family to dinner in the in the truck, because it's a decently upfitted truck. So we're still striving to capture as much data as we can, and as technology increases, we're going to be able to present more of that front end data to the back end user, so they know what type of vehicle they're getting. Because I know that buying a fleet vehicle in the grand scheme of things can sound scary, because you don't necessarily know the life cycle of that vehicle. But we've made great strides in allowing people to kind of take a step into our world to see where the vehicle was, is, and where it will go.
Yeah, we really appreciate that at Work Truck Solutions. So we pull in a feed of your vehicles into our vast application, which is a tool similar to what you described, where dealers can log in to a portal and see used inventory that's available to purchase. And what's great is the more data that's coming from you as a supplier of that inventory about what that vehicle is, the better. So it's great to hear that you're solving that same problem of just like, hey, let's make sure that the buyer understands exactly whether it's damage or what the body type is on the back there. And then, sending that to places like us that can get it in front of dealers as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really, for any of us here, and I don't obviously want to speak on anyone's behalf, but it's very, the scope of business with the automotive industry is very objective, because we can easily take a step back and see what we would like to see. And that's how we really developed our sales side of FlexFleet, is understanding as if I was a consumer, what I want to see at the back end, whether it's features, because it isn't to say that when we are upfitting our trucks in inception, we're not thinking about the end user. We're thinking about the end user from the very beginning, because as the vehicle ages, it's still going to be a sought after asset. So we need to apply equipment to that vehicle that is still going to be favorable when the vehicle comes off rent.
Yeah, I know we don't have all day to keep on this topic. Sarah, I'll just let you know any comments if you have here on kind of accurately representing bodies and what you guys can do online. I don't know if you guys have demo units that you try and repurpose or get in front of dealers or things like that.
Yeah, so there's kind of two avenues. So since we're primarily custom and we work very closely directly with our customers, unlike Ryan's comments of having to think about both their lease user and their end buyer, we're working directly with our end user from day one. So most of our sales account managers are working directly with the customer, speccing that vehicle from the time it leaves. It's often in that customer's hands for 10 to 20 years. On the other side, though, if you're a smaller fleet, if you're looking to just procure or you just want to buy a vehicle off the lot, we do have a dealer network, and we have certain dealers we have very strong connections with that specialize in specific locations, such as food trucks. So then they have their own network of upfitters as well. And we've really honed in with them on what their customers need. So we have special specs for those dealers, and then they can keep the vehicles on the lot and ready and available. So we have a couple of different avenues to make sure that our end users are getting what they need.
Well, right on. We are actually at the end here. So before I wrap it up here, is there any closing comments? Or I'll thank all of you guys for joining us here today, and thanks for going through all the different questions I was giving you and our audience as well. Thanks.
Pleasure.
Yeah, glad to have you all.